Peter Yan versus Sean O'Malley is going down, and this is going to be a very interesting fight. I think it's going to be closer than what people think, purely because of the evidence of what we've seen in Peter Yan, and that he likes to take round one off, and in a 3-round fight against a long, taller striker, a mover like Sean O'Malley, I don't think it's going to be smart if Peter Yan does what he normally does and takes a round off. He needs to stick it on Sean O'Malley from round one, because if he takes round one number off, O'Malley's more than likely going to pick him apart. And then round 2, 3, obviously, then you're looking at a close fight at that point. But after looking at both fighters, past 5 fights, I think Peter Yan should get the better of Sean O'Malley in the closer exchanges. I think he's going to force the fight into a bit of a dogfight. We've seen him preparing, doing some wrestling and so on and so forth for his training camp for this fight. So he's looking to mix it in. He's not looking just to stand there and strike a taller, longer striker in Sean O'Malley. So as long as he does that from round number 1, puts all of his game together, goes for some takedowns, looks to fight O'Malley on the inside and doesn't look to take a round off, then I think it will be an easy victory for Peter Yan. But it all depends on how Yan comes in. If he decides to try and stand up and strike with Sean O'Malley and chase the KO, then that's going to probably play detriment to Yan. He needs to shoot for takedowns, and he can't take the first round off, in my opinion. It's going to be a good fight. I think the window for Sean O'Malley to win is going to be very slim if he wants to get the KO. I mean, I don't think he's going to. I think because of the way this fight is, if Yan chases the KO and stands up with Sean O'Malley, then it's going to present itself. But that's only if Yan decides to fight in that way. I think Sean O'Malley's best bet is to look to get a decision victory over Yan, to stand up on the outside, outstrike him, use his longer limbs and so on and so forth. Similar to what he done against Pedro Munoz. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, leaning towards Yan, but it all depends on how he decides to come in and fight Sean O'Malley. I think it's going to be a bit of a close one, closer than what people think, because I think people are favouring Peter Yan to dominate Sean O'Malley in this one. And I think it's going to be more so dependent on the approach of each fighter. I don't think it's going to be as easy to say it's going to go X way or Y way because of the
Yan is favorite. Is Yan favorite?
Yan's big favorite. Yeah, big favorite.
A big favorite.
Big favorite. Yeah, Sean O'Malley's like.
I would have thought O'Malley was favorite.
No, this is what I'm saying. So, yeah, I just think I don't. It's a mad one still. It's actually a crazy one because I don't like how Yan looks in a lot of his fights in the first round. He literally doesn't do enough. Even in a Sanhagen fight, look at Sanhagen how he fought him. Yeah, Sanhagen was doing well for the first couple of rounds. All Malley needs to do is win 2 rounds against Peter Yan, who's known to really, not really give much in the first round. He takes a lot off, doesn't really put his foot on the gas, and he gives that round away. So I don't know, man. If he comes out and he puts it on O'Malley from round 1, I think it will just be an easy night for Yan. He might even find a stoppage. But he has to look to close the distance. He has to force it to close the distance. And yeah, because O'Malley, one thing that he does do one thing that he does do very well is obviously good footwork, good control of distance, and he puts a lot of decent striking in between him and his opponent to keep them away. And if Yan likes to take round 1 off, O'Malley's going to win that round comfortably. He might pick up a rhythm. O'Malley could even cruise to a decision victory. I see that happening as well. But off the evidence, what we've seen, considering the leg injuries of Sean O'Malley, looking at the Chito Marlon Vera fight, how his leg got debilitated, and then the other fight, South Kamath, whatever his name is, obviously had the leg injury. If Yan fights dirty, if he closes in the distance and really puts it on O'Malley, I see him actually stopping O'Malley at some point. But again, depending on how Yan wants to fight. How do you see this one going down? What do you see happening in this?
Do you know what? That's crazy that you said that Yan is the favorite, because I actually thought Malley would have been the favorite. I was kind of siding Malley, to be honest. I like Yan. I'm a big Yan fan. I like his fighting style. As you say, he does take round 1 off. He does read his fighter. He lets them throw what they're throwing, and he kind of reads how they react to how he throws, and he it's like he takes a round to learn what's gonna happen. And so I do like how he fights, but during that time, Malley is like a proper calculated thrower. He does he likes to pick off his opponents. He has what 5 inch reach advantage, so he's gonna be controlling that distance and picking apart Yan. And he's much taller as well. It's gonna be kind of hard for Yan to get on the inside, with the type of fighter that Mali is as well, because he likes to throw it out. So even that first round off of Yan trying to learn what his opponent's gonna do might not help, because Mali, he can throw he mixes it up all the time. He throws a
Mm.
good variety, punches, kicks. He's even great grappler. So you don't really know, you can't really read what Mali's gonna do, and then his style of fighting is just like proper unorthodox. You know, like,
Yeah.
and that's why I like him, because he throws the shots out of nowhere that are proper effective. Um, he's just very explosive, but he's explosive with style. You know, so uh, I think I'm going with Mali, maybe a third round finish, because Yan is going to be trying to close that distance a lot, and Mali's good at picking off his opponents at distance with his reach. So I feel like as Yan is trying to close that distance, he will get picked apart, and that's why I'm going with maybe third round finish. If not
Or
points,
O'Malley, yeah?
if not
Do you
if
think
not
O'Malley?
points, yeah, I think O'Malley.
Okay. So interesting, man. And one thing I was just considering is that why I think Jan's gonna more than likely beat O'Malley here is because I'm looking at O'Malley versus Pedro Munoz. Yeah, and I'm seeing O'Malley. Obviously, he managed just to basically outbox him, like be the better kickboxer,
Yeah,
which he should be because he's taller, longer, and so on and so forth. But there was nothing really impressive to say. Look, he's like look at Aldo and Pedro Munoz. Pedro Munoz, sorry. Like there's a difference. You can see the striking. There's a quality. There's a caliber from Aldo, and it was affecting Munoz, pushing him back and so on and so forth. And I just think that Mali hasn't really shown that he's dominant at that level.
look
I,
at the fight against Chris Mutinino.
but Chris Mutino, like, it's a completely different level when you're talking about the likes of Pedro Munoz, like those sort of fighters in the upper part of the Jose Aldo, obviously, like Peter Yan, they're different. Like Corey Sanhagen, they're completely different to Chris Moutinho. Like, and so even in that Moutinho fight, well, O'Malley was getting caught with a few shots. He was getting caught with clean shots. He dominated him. Yeah, he did whatever, but he was getting caught by a person who really he should have, with the firepower and the accuracy of what he was landing. If he can't put away Moutinho,
yeah,
I don't see him putting away.
that, but I might be being a bit biased, because I am a fan of O'Malley, of course. But
Yeah.
I just see him picking him apart as he's like Yan. You cannot take away from him, but as he's come, he has to close that distance, and that's where it will go wrong.
Oh, you remember one thing, Jan Sanhagen.
Yeah, Sanhagen is long as well.
And you saw Jan dealt with him, knocked him down with a spinning back fist and a hook after that. Do you remember?
Yeah,
he was knocking him down. He was landing. He was outboxing him, innit? He was outstriking him. And I think we're going to see the same thing here. But in a 3-round fight, considering the pace that Jan likes to sort of give away that first round, that's the only thing I'm thinking about. Because it'll make it a close fight, isn't it? If Jan gives away the first round and he wins the second, then it makes it anyone's round 3. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. But otherwise, I'm going with Jan. You're picking O'Malley to win this one. You think O'Malley's going to? I'm not hating it. I do see a night where O'Malley has his way with Jan as well. I just think at this time, I think Jan's got a lot to prove. Him losing the belt, obviously to Aljamain, fighting underneath Aljamain on a big card. I think Jan's going to be a dog in this fight, and I think he's going to look to finish Sean O'Malley. Evidence shows he likes to take round 1 off, but I do think we're going to see a very hungry, dangerous Peter Yan going into round number 1 of this fight against Sean O'Malley.
Regardless,
great fight. Let us know who you think is going to win in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and we'll be back with more.